My goal in this meeting is to actually share with you the challenges and some of the vision I have for the city, and naturally be happy to answer your questions. And I think that when talking about the city of Jerusalem, we should go backwards 3,500 years in time and understand that Jerusalem's history of 3,500 years is practically second to no other city in the world. And 2/3 of the Old Testament is written on a few hills next to the city of David, next to the Temple Mount. And when you put a shovel in the ground anywhere in our city, you find history and roots and meanings. The rocks speak to us on a daily basis. And we recognize that Jerusalem is not only a city of its residents. And one must bear in mind, in planning and developing the city of Jerusalem, that indeed 3.5 billion people of faith look at Jerusalem on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And we have to consider that in mind when we plan and develop and manage and lead the city of Jerusalem. A spiritual, a religious center of the world. The population of Jerusalem is about 800,000 people strong. About a third are Muslims, 2% are Christians, and about 2/3 are Jewish. And that population naturally is a challenge on its own in terms of how to develop the city fairly and equally between the different segments. My role as mayor, my vision, is to think how to return the role of the city to where it was 2,000 and 3,000 years ago, where people of all faith used to come to Jerusalem to worship their faith, Jews and non-Jews alike, and to come and taste the spiritualism of the city of Jerusalem. The goal is to open up Jerusalem for the benefit of the world to enjoy. Naturally, we would like to do that by increasing tourism, expanding the cultural experience, and enable all people of faith to practice their religion freely in a way that actually exists today, but even expanded way of managing the city. This is Jerusalem's uniqueness. In a way, I would also say competitive advantage. And when I went down to develop my vision to the city, I worked with Professor Michael Porter from Harvard Business School, which I'm meeting again tomorrow, in developing how do you develop this competitive advantage, this uniqueness of the city, in order to enable the world to benefit from the city of Jerusalem. And we defined a few goals. One of them is to dramatically increase tourism to the city of Jerusalem. If New York had last year 45 million tourists, and so did London, Paris, Rome, the major cities of the world have each over 40 million tourists a year. It is amazing that Jerusalem in 2008 had just over 2 million tourists a year. And my goal is to reach 10 million tourists within a decade. If other major cities can do 40, we can do 10. That goal, by the way, is a very meaningful milestone for us. Meaningful in the sense that we have to open up Jerusalem and enable people to come and segment the different people interested in the city and actually serve the global world and open up Jerusalem. That task, that goal, it means that we're serious in developing and enabling more and more people throughout the world to come and go back home as ambassadors of the city of Jerusalem. Another goal we have is to make Jerusalem attractive not only for tourists, but also for investors, for young entrepreneurs, and eventually to stop negative migration of the Jewish population that are leaving because of lack of jobs, price of housing, day-to-day stuff that cause people to leave rather than to stay in the city and strengthen it and build it and scale it in order to achieve those goals. Working with Professor Porter, We've articulated the culture, what we call the culture tourism business cluster, which is a driver, an engine to get Jerusalem out of its poverty, a driver to create jobs. 10 million tourists a year is an equivalent of 140,000 new jobs. It entails significant investment opportunities. Side by side to what we call the culture tourism business cluster, we're also focusing on health life sciences. Jerusalem has a big cluster of businesses in that area. We are now 10% of the population of Israel, 25% of the business in that space, and growing in Jerusalem. And we're also very powerful in outsourcing of professional services, high-end services, may they be health, legal, hedge fund, financial services, high-end services that Jerusalem is now able to better provide than other areas in the world to the global marketplace. And so this is the vision, this is where we're headed. When we plan the city and work it, we have to bear in mind that there are gaps to fulfill. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that Jerusalem, while being the largest city in the country, we're 800,000 as I said earlier, the next in line is Tel Aviv with half the population, 400,000 people. We're short of about 2,000 classrooms, half for the Arab population, half of the Jewish population. We're short in investments in infrastructure, in roads, in public transportation. Growing in the next 20 years, we anticipate Jerusalem to grow from 800,000 people strong to 1 million people strong. That means 50,000 new apartments for future population, for the growth, for natural growth. And we are planning that in the master plan that I'd be happy to share with you. We plan to expand Arab neighborhoods and Jewish neighborhoods, and the master plan calls for the expansion in the right proportions, which are the current proportions, which is a third Arab, 2/3 Jewish, and we could demonstrate the plan that we have in order to scale the city to its natural and what we consider as a goal to become 1 million people strong and to be able to cope with a significant growing number of tourists and visitors to the city. Now that needs a lot of planning. That needs a lot of discipline. And one of the challenges that I bring with me, and I think that it's true for the city as a whole, is to start planning business-oriented way, to put everything on the table and to manage it not in a political way, but in a professional way. Keep the ratios of growth, change the ratios of residential to commerce, residential to the hotel industry. Unfortunately, Jerusalem has been mainly focused on becoming a container for residents rather than to cope with the challenge I shared with you of getting it to become a destination for tens of millions of people in the next in the foreseeable future. So what we actually have to do is reshape the areas for business and commerce and hotel industry. We're allocating much more land or place for culture that is complementary and can create a richer experience coming to the city of Jerusalem. And these are the things that I'm very, very busy the vast majority of my time. The master plan that we have, people are not all aware of it, is a master plan that started, it's been worked on for 10 years. It started at Olmert's time and went through Lupliansky, the two prior mayors. We were fine-tuning it. It's been gone through public debate, and practically there's a large acceptance in the country that indeed this is the wisest and smartest plan after it went through all that process. And we derive our operations and licenses we give to Jews and Arabs and everybody else from that master plan, which is very important for people to understand. Not people think that there's lots of politics in here. There's everything, there's politics, but from my perspective, it's very straightforward legal zoning laws that we derive our actions. Considerations that we have to bear in mind when we manage Jerusalem. There are 3,000 buildings for preservation. I'm not sure people realize that when you plan a new building rather than from an old building, if you start digging, there's a reasonable chance that you get stuck and have to reshape and replan it. And in a lot of the cases, you cannot build because of the city is so old in Jerusalem is not 100 years. Old in Jerusalem is a few hundred years, few thousand years of history, and they're all very, very important for us. So we have a very high standard of preservation that we would like to maintain in the city of Jerusalem. And so the ratios of business to residential, public buildings to residential, these are all things that in those cases we have to even change from the current status in order to enable Jerusalem to become viable in terms of our economy. There's also a lot of gaps in the planning of different neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. There are about 20,000 illegal structures in East Jerusalem today. Now, it didn't start yesterday. This is a process that started even before Jerusalem was reunited and unfortunately continued for decades. And when you look at the current zoning laws and the reality, in some of the neighborhoods there's a total mismatch. Something that I'll be happy to expand in the Q&A. And as mayor, I had two bad choices how to deal with those gaps. The first bad choice is to continue being an ostrich, not cope with such huge challenge of fixing reality and dealing with the situation. The second bad option was, what do you take 20,000 illegal buildings to courts? Both cases don't make too much sense. And I went through a process that I've finalized the first pilot, and now we're expanding, of rezoning, pressing the restart button, and change the zoning laws in a way that goes as liberal as you can with the current situation. You have to look at the old zoning system, the reality, overlay them, scratch your head, figure out how can we be much, much more considerate of the current situation, what makes sense, and it's an iterative process that eventually come up with a new zoning law for neighborhoods. And this is something we've done for Silwan, and now we're expanding that to additional neighborhoods. And by the end of my term, I would like to start all zonings of all different neighborhoods of East Jerusalem. And that dramatically decreases tension. And I'd be happy to share the example of Silwan with you in the Q&A.